So first of all, I want to welcome you all to youth meeting tonight. And I don't know if you guys remember what we talked the last time. God's last resort, it was called. So we established that God's last resort is punishment, right? But we also, and you're going to be like, well, aren't we done with that? And I'm going to tell you, no, there's one last thing that you guys need to know. There's one last thing that we need to address when it comes to that. So I spoke with the Lord and I asked him and I said, Lord, you want me to, you want me to encourage them? You want me to give them something else? What do you want me to say? And God said, well, you're going to have to tell them not only that my last resort is punishment, but like what kind of punishment? What usually, is God's favorite, if you want? What does he use against us? And also at the same time, it's going to answer a few questions because here's David. He's been dealing with the situation, right? And I'm talking about our David over here, not the one in the Bible. He's been dealing with the situation with the man that calls himself a man of God. He had a relationship to some extent with him. They worked together, they did business together. And God spoke to David many times to address him, and tell him, what's wrong in his life and what he needs to change and all of that. And instead of him taking in what God is speaking through David and addressing those problems because it's for his own benefit, he's rebuking him. He's going against him. He's saying that there's something wrong with him, right? And now, here's one thing that you guys don't know. David has questions as well. He's like, Lord, I've done my job. I have done my job. Why is it that nothing happens? Why is it that, he still continues to do? And I didn't talk to him, but I already know this. And this is why God asked me to speak tonight about this, right? Because I want you to understand something. God does not like to punish. It's his last resort. But when God punishes, he uses such ways to do it in which, let's put it this way, for you guys to understand. And then we're going to read just a few verses out of Lamentations chapter 5. I woke up this morning. I don't remember exactly what time it was, but I remember waking up. It was probably 2 o'clock, 2:30, 3 o'clock maybe at the latest. And I went to use the bathroom, and literally I just clicked on my phone to light up the room. And as soon as I clicked, I see headline news. Mm-hmm. War in Iran. United States and Israel co-joined, if you want, together, and they hit Iran. And immediately, the first thing that came to my mind was, well, Trump has been extending his gratitude to this guy, the leader of Iran, for the last few months. And he kept saying, well, why don't you come to the table? Let's negotiate. This is what we're asking. Let's see what you want. And let's come to a common agreement in which everybody gets almost what they want, right? Because there's compromise when it comes to this kind of stuff, not with the Lord, but in these situations, right? So Trump kept saying, I don't know if you guys saw it. He kept saying over the news, I'm waiting on him. I've sent my people, to talk to him. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to be diplomatic about it, right? And the guy was like, stubborn. No, there's no negotiations. There's nothing. You leave us alone. We're ready to kill everybody. We don't care what you say. All right? So after so many tries, what do you think is going to happen? Right? I mean, you kept trying and keep trying to talk to the person or to the people. They don't even want to talk to you. They don't even want to acknowledge you, let alone talk to you, right? That's what's going on with David as well. I mean, he's not even being acknowledged, let alone, the guy just like, no, man, I don't know what you're talking about. So what happened last night? They got struck. They got hit, right? They got bombarded. Why? Because they were perfect? No, because, God's last resort, so to speak, okay? And let's see what kind of punishment. So let's read a few verses, and we're gonna try to be very swift tonight. Here's what it says. Here's how it starts. It's almost like What do you mean, remember, O Lord, what has come upon us? When God doesn't forget anything, right? The Bible says God does not forget anything. So this is how he starts. And it says, remember, O Lord, what has come upon us. Look and behold our reproach. Our inheritance has been turned over to aliens, and our houses to foreigners. We have become orphans and waifs. Our mothers are like widows. We pay for the water we drink, and our wood comes at a price. They pursue at our heels. We labor and have no rest. We have given our hand to the Egyptians and the Assyrians to be satisfied with bread. Our fathers sinned and are no more, but we bear their iniquities. Servants rule over us. There is none to deliver us from their hand. We get our bread at the risk of our lives because of the sword in the wilderness. Our skin is hot as an oven because of the fever of famine. They ravished the women in Zion, the maidens in the city of Judah. Princes were hung up by their hands, and elders were not respected. Young men ground at the millstones. Boys staggered under loads of wood. The elders have ceased gathering at the gate, and the young men from their music. The joy of our heart has ceased. Our dance has turned into mourning. The crown has fallen from our head. Woe to us, for we have sinned. Because of this, our heart is faint. Because of these things, our eyes grow dim. Because of Mount Zion, which is desolate, with foxes walking about on it. You, O Lord, remain forever, your throne from generation to generation. Why do you forget us forever and forsake us for so long a time? Turn us back to you, O Lord, and we will be restored. Renew our days as of old, unless you have utterly rejected us and are very angry with us. So, as you all know, the book of Lamentations was written by prophet Jeremiah. Prophet Jeremiah was one that God used in tremendous ways, but his number one job was to go and tell them about their iniquities. Every single day, that's what he had to go and do. You know what? This is what you're doing wrong. This is what the Lord is saying about you. You are doing this. You're not supposed to be doing this. You're sinning against God, and God is going to do this to you. And I'm telling you, all day long, this guy was sent by the Lord. And by the way, it was very hard on him. Several times, it was very hard on him. And this is why he has the book of Lamentations. He has a book of crying in which, he speaks about the suffering, but he also reiterates, all the stuff that the people of God have to go through. And now pay attention. Not because God somehow just likes to punish. It's because his people just wouldn't care. Just would not care. Just like Iran right now does not want to come to the table, did not want to come to the table, did not want to negotiate, did not want to turn from their ways. No, it's our way or the highway. And eventually that's going to bring God's wrath. So here's how he starts. He says, remember, O Lord, what has come upon us. Look and behold our reproach. It's almost like he's inviting God to look at the current situation. Now, does God need to be invited to look at something? He knows everything, right? But the situation is so dire for the people of Israel that it almost feels like God is no longer watching over them. It's been such a long time that they've been going through all of this that they're like, you know what? God has forgotten about us. Something is going on. And I want you to understand something. God speaks to us for such a long time. Have you seen people that God spoke to for 30 years? And almost, it's like, man, God kept saying, I'm going to come. This is what I'm going to do. And this is and nothing happens for 30 years. And people, at one point, you know what happens? People lose faith. Like, I don't know, man, if God spoke. I don't know. That's exactly what happened in the book of Jeremiah as well. But it was the other way around. The people kept like, oh, nothing is happening to us. I don't know, Jeremiah the prophet, he's not a good prophet, man. He just keeps talking, to us from the Lord, but it's not the Lord speaking through him. Don't you see that happening in our churches as well these days? When God keeps saying something and he keeps reiterating that, and people are like, we've heard this before. Why do they say that? Because God his love endures forever, right? And he keeps on waiting and waiting for people to change. And they don't want to change. And this brings God's wrath. And then the second thing is the prophets. I want you to pay attention to something. We're going to talk about it tomorrow. We're going to talk about certain things. But I want you to pay attention to something that's very dangerous. When you are a prophet, just like Jeremiah, and God speaks through you about certain things that will happen to the people that don't listen, and you as a person see that stuff doesn't come to pass the way you would expect it. You remember Jonah? Do you remember his disappointment? When God sent him to say, another 40 days, Nineveh will be destroyed. And then God turns from what he wanted to do. And the people are being forgiven, right? And what does he do? I look bad. I look bad right now, So this is the sentiment that a lot of prophets end up having because they spoke from the Lord. And the Lord keeps waiting and waiting and waiting, for stuff to change. And it almost seems like the prophecy is not coming to pass. And they lose their cool. The prophets lose their cool. And that's not okay. So you got to pay attention to that. When God tells you something, you better say it exactly like God says. And then wait on the Lord until he fulfills what he said he's going to do. So David, just because God doesn't do anything as of now, doesn't mean that he didn't speak. It means that he still has given a lot of time to this guy, and his love endures forever, and he's going to give him, I don't know how much time, but eventually some stuff is going to happen. And then here's how he continues in verse 2. Our inheritance has been turned over to aliens, and our houses to foreigners. So what's the first thing that you see over here? When God starts punishing someone, the first thing that he touches is money. Listen to me. The first thing that God touches when he starts punishing a person is money. When I was wicked in my ways, back in the day, I made a lot of money. I had money that I could buy, a Porsche paid off. I already told you this before. I could buy whatever I wanted. My wife knows. When I wanted a Porsche one day, I went with cash and paid it off that day. I had money. But you know what? When God wanted to say, Ovi, you need to turn to me the right way, and here's my reproach. Here's what I'm going to do. First thing he did, he took away all of my money. I mean, all of my money. I'm not talking about, he left me with a few $100s. All of my money. And this is what it says. Our inheritance has been turned over to aliens. In other words, you work for it, and somebody else is using it. And our house is to foreigners. Do you know that? Do you know that me and my wife almost lost our house in 2009? By the way, our jobs back then, and I'm not saying this to pride ourselves. I'm telling you guys for you to understand, to be able to make the comparison between the two. Our average job was $175,000 at the time. We were making about $175,000 every 3 months. It was ridiculous how much money we made, right? And our most expensive job, and I'm not saying this again, I'm not saying this to brag about it. Our most expensive job was $521,000 that we made in 6 months. So $500,000, in 6 months, that's very good income, right? God took it all away. But not just the money. We were on the verge, I should say, of losing our house. Do you know that we got a paperwork from the bank? We got a paperwork from the bank, and they gave us a date and time, and they said by 12 noon on that day, you need to leave the house. It was that bad. So God does do these kind of things. And it says, in our houses to foreigners, some other person is coming to take away your house. And I have a very good example for you to understand. And again, I'm trying to be swift. There's a lot to talk about, but I'm trying to be swift. I might have told you this before, but I said it in Romanian when we were with the whole church. I know a guy in Arizona that became very proud. Very, very prideful. So here's what happened. He started gypping people. He became a contractor building houses, and he started gypping people. And at one point, he built himself a house. And at the time, it was an $800,000 house. It was, back in the day, $800,000, it's almost like $8 million right now. That's how, how expensive it was. So what he did is, the contractor that he was working with, signed the contract with him. And the guy demanded, the guy that was having his house built, he demanded the contractor put a date that he was going to have the house finished by. And the guy gave himself extra time, and he did the whole 9 yards. Only that he didn't know, what he didn't know is that this guy was wicked. And you know what this guy would do? When he would when he was getting ready to, let's just say framing, he was almost ready with framing to pass inspection. The owner, right, would come and say, oh, I don't like this over here. I want it extended. I want this, and I want you to move this. So he would make him do extra work to delay him. And then the next would be, electrical and plumbing. And every single thing that they did, he would delay him on purpose. You know what happened? In the end, the guy got delayed with the whole project. And the date that he put on the contract, he could not deliver the house by that date. You know what happened? The owner came with the contract to him, and he said, listen, we had a contract that I was going to pay you this much money, but the house needed to be done by that time. You didn't do it, so I'm not paying you the money. And my understanding is that he gypped that guy $400,000 or $500,000. That was a lot of money. And that guy, I'm telling you, that guy was, he ruined him. The guy had to go out of business. He had no more money. So years passed. The owner of the house, the one that gypped the other guy, the contractor, became very, very powerful. A lot of money and this and that. And he started doing all sorts of things. And one day he needed some money quick. He needed money for another project. And he went and he loaned against the house. He loaned money against the house. And something happened and he couldn't pay it back. And my wife knows what I'm talking about. 1 o'clock in the morning. 1 o'clock in the morning. Cops and people that were from the bank and everybody that, was supposed to be part of that operation, they came and listened to me. I'm sorry that I have to be this blunt with you. He was in his underwear. They took him out of the bed and kicked him out in the front lawn, and they said, everything that's in the house is no longer yours. The bank seized everything. He lost everything in an instant. Question, what do you think happened to that house? Got sold to an alien, to someone that you don't even know about, right? So he lost the house, and someone else now lives in your house because you didn't do what you were supposed to be doing. Verse 3, we have become orphans and waifs. Our mothers are like widows. What is that supposed to mean? Hear me out when I'm telling you. When God punishes, when God starts punishing the right way, the way he does, the wives, the women cannot bear children anymore. I know it sounds crazy, but God did punish like this in the past. In the Bible, we have examples of stuff like this happening, and then it says our mothers are like widows. A lot of times, God comes with death. God comes with death in the family. And the father dies in the family because they had the family sin, and the woman becomes a widow. These are harsh punishments, or it could be the other way around. The wife dies and the husband becomes a widower, because God's wrath will unfold. And then it says this, we pay for the water we drink. Oh, so now, hear me out for a second. What do you mean we pay for the water we drink? It's no longer free? No, it's no longer free. Did I ever tell you this? And I think I did say it in church. At one point, there was an elderly man that had some sort of a stroke or maybe some heart attack, like a mild heart attack. And he ended up in the hospital. And they kept him overnight. They did EKGs on him, they wanted to make sure that he was okay before they released him. So they kept him for like 5-6 hours in the hospital. In the morning, they released him. And the guy didn't have insurance. So, before you get released from the hospital, they come to you and they tell you what they did. And, and they eventually, what they do? They present you with the bill. And when they gave him the bill, it was like $8,000 for a few hours being in the hospital. I don't remember exactly. I want to say $8,000. And the elderly guy started crying. He was weeping profusely. And he was like, what is going on? He doesn't have money. They thought, he just couldn't afford it. And when they saw that, by the way, they do have a department of welfare that that comes and tries to help you if you're in dire need or if you've got issues. So here's what they did. They brought this, department to talk to him. So they offered him, maybe a payment plan. Maybe they offered, to cut it down to a smaller amount. And the guy goes, "You think that I'm crying for the money? I'm not crying for the money. I don't care about the money." He goes, "You know what I've realized? I've realized that for 70-something years that I've lived on the face of this earth, God has provided me with free oxygen, and you guys charge me $8,000 for some oxygen over 6 hours that you provided me with." Do you know what they charged them for? For oxygen and the EKG, $8,000. And the guy was like, "I never knew that oxygen is so expensive." You know when we get to appreciate water? When we don't have it anymore. You know when we appreciate, cars and gas and things that we have them every day. We start appreciating those when we miss them, when we don't have them anymore. We cannot afford them anymore. And this is exactly what's going on when God comes in. He starts taking stuff away. And here's what he says next. Our wood comes at a price, so they can no longer cut wood, right? You can no longer even heat your house, right? And then it says, they pursue at our heels. We labor and have no rest. Oh, here's what happens next. Here's what happened next. I'm going to say it again. They pursue at our heels. We labor and have no rest. Since I'm talking about Brother David today, and mainly, I'm going to say something to you. Mainly the message is for him tonight. It is for everybody else because we are to learn, but mainly God wants to speak to him because he's had questions. He's like, "God, what is going on? You have me talk. You have me speak. Nothing is happening. This guy is not changing. I'm still not getting what I'm supposed to be getting. What is going on?" Rest assured, God is at work. Here's what happens next. This is going to answer another one of your questions. We have, they pursue at our heels. We labor and have no rest. What is that supposed to mean? What is that supposed to mean? They pursue at our heels. Do you guys remember what he said Thursday evening when he was given the word? When he was given the word to the church, do you remember what he said? He said that he had a prophecy, or they had a prophecy, that at one point the guy that was their boss, his boss, was going to work for him.
Had a vision. He had a vision.
Doesn't matter. God spoke to him somehow, right? It doesn't really matter how. God spoke to him and told him that his ex-boss is going to eventually end up working for him. Let's read again. They pursue at our heels. You know what's going to happen? You know what's going to happen? The guy that right now gave you jobs and all of that might end up working for you. And you're going to be after him. Hey, are you done with the job? Get it ready, man. God turns things around. God is the best when it comes to this kind of stuff. I've seen it way too many times. And then it says this, we labor and have no rest. What do you think that is? Can anybody tell me? What do you mean we labor and have no rest? Now, hear me out. When you received everything, when Tyler, I'm going to call him by his name, when Tyler is getting everything for free and everything is perfectly fine, he doesn't have to even work that much. He's got workers that do stuff for him. But when things will turn around, he's going to work for the workers and he has no rest. You know why? Because he's going to be constantly reminded, man, I was the boss and now I'm the laborer for the guy that I had under me. Why do you think that happens? Because God uses this torment, I'm going to call it, torment, okay, to make you aware that you did not pay attention to the good times when you were supposed to be light to others. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? God has this wonderful way of doing things. And then it says, we have given our hand to the Egyptians and the Assyrians to be satisfied with bread. Do you know what this means? Was God asking them to compromise before? No. God was giving them everything according to his will. Do you know what they were doing right now? They were supposed to compromise and get bread from wicked people just to live. So they're going to have to do certain things that usually they weren't supposed to be doing, okay? The ones that sin, just to make ends meet. In other words, they won't be able to get food on their table very easily. So they're going to have to compromise somehow. And this is what it says. Our fathers sinned and are no more, but we bear their iniquities. So another thing. Since we're talking about this, I'm going to use the same people. David needs to look at Tyler. Tyler was supposed to look at his parents. And I can guarantee 100%. His parents were no good example for him. I don't know the guy, but I can tell you 100%. They were no good example for him. And they sinned. Tyler is continuing doing the same thing. And he's going to pay both ways. God's going to come and say, well, not only that you haven't learned from your father's mistakes, but you haven't learned from your own mistakes, and now you're paying for both. This is exactly what's happening over here. Our fathers sinned and are no more. In other words, they already passed, but we didn't learn anything from that, but we bear their iniquities. We pay double fold if you want. And this is what it's a double down. Servants rule over us. Do you see? The ones that you work for, the ones that work for you, now you work for. God has a way of doing things. There is none to deliver us from their hand. Have you thought about this? There is none to deliver us from your hand. Well, I thought you were tough, man. I thought you had connections. I thought you had a business. I thought you knew what you were doing. You were a contractor. Speaking to David right now. Right? You look at him, I thought. At that time, there isn't going to be anybody, because God is in control 100%. And when he closes a door, nobody can open it. And then he says, he continues with the bread. We get our bread at the risk of our lives because of the sword in the wilderness. Now they need to go and provide by hunting and do all sorts of other things that before they didn't have to do. But just to make ends meet, they need them to do all of this. And now, here's what happens in verse 10. This was all the way up to verse 9, and verse 10 changes tune a bit. Now it starts describing them. Our skin is hot as an oven. Why? Can anybody answer me? Why? Our skin is hot as an oven. Well, first of all, is because now they're laboring. Now they have to work, okay? And they have to work probably 10 times more than they did before. Okay? Second, they're exposed. Out in the sun. Nobody cares. Before, they would come and say, hey, David, I need you to do this. I'll see you in 4 hours or tomorrow. You get in his car, AC, and the whole 9 yards. All right? And he would be sweaty in the house with no AC or who knows what, doing the job. And the other guy would be comfortable. Now, tables are turning. And all of a sudden, it's the other way around. He has to work hard. He has to endure all of that. And you know why God does that? He makes us understand what the people that we disrespected went through. Here's what he says next. Because of the fever of famine. Not only that you've got issues, but there's a famine going on. There are hard times that you cannot provide. There's no way for you to do anything the way you did it before. And it says, they ravished the women in Zion, the maidens, the city of Judah. Princes were hung up by their hands, and elders were not respected. This is the desolation. The desolation that is being brought against the people, so everybody's affected. In other words, if I am to translate these two verses, I want you to understand, when these times will come, when God's punishment, if you want, ultimate punishment comes, everybody will be affected. The entire family, not just, one branch, but everybody. And then it says this, young men ground at the millstones, boys staggered under loads of wood. Now, question, are these normal conditions? Is this supposed to happen? No. Under any circumstances. What do you mean young men ground at the millstones? Do you guys know what that means? They had stones At that time, they would put the wheat inside of it to make what? Do you guys know? Flour. And it was manual labor. It was hard. You had to grind and turn those stones to make all of that. So situation will get from worse to even worse. Elders were not respected. Young men grounded the millstones. Boys staggered under loads of wood. In other words, everything is manual. There's no more machinery. There's no more stuff that, helps us. The elders have ceased gathering at the gate, and the young men from their music. Here's I'm going to try to be swift tonight. If I am to give you an explanation, here's what I'm telling you. The joy of the Lord is gone. When they were gathering, when the elders were gathering at the gate, it was for other people to hear wisdom. The wisdom of the Lord that was supposed to be in them, they were supposed to share it with the young people at that time. And the young men were supposed to do what? The young men were singing. There's no more singing. There's no more word. There's absolutely nothing to make you or to bring you in the presence of the Lord. Here's how he continues, and we're gonna end really quick. The joy of our heart has ceased. I have a question. Who can work? Let's go back to David. Let's just put it this way. You had a mild fight with Patricia, right? Can you be joyful at work after that? Can you go there and just crank up the music and forget, I don't care about Patricia? Can you do that? No. It'll affect you. Do you understand what I'm saying? Now here's what he's saying. The joy of our heart has ceased. Do you see what happens here? Every single thing is negative. The oppression is real. Everything is all over the place. There's no end in sight. They need to work. They're sweating. There's no food. There's no drink. They need to do everything manually. What joy is that? What joy is in that, I should say? Our dance has turned into mourning. And you know what happens next? Exactly that. They start mourning. Oh, the days, man, when I should have paid attention. The days when I should have paid David, man, what I was supposed to be paying him. The days when he spoke to me and told me, if you do not repent, if you do not turn away from your wicked ways, this is what's going to happen to you and your family. The days when I could have done what was right and I didn't, and now I'm paying for all of it. Do you understand? That's exactly what's going to come over these people. And then it says, the crown has fallen from our head. Woe to us, for we have sin. Don't you think it's ironic that it takes so long for them to realize? I'm going to say it again. Don't you think it's ironic that they take so long to realize that they've sinned? Hear me out. When Tyler's problems are going to start, he's not going to think about the fact that he sinned. He's just going to think that something is going on. And he's going to be like, this just happened. It's just, hold on, that's the second. You're jumping the horse. That's the first. This just happened. Sometimes it happens that I lose a job. I lose a second job, But when he sees that these things keep continuing, you know what he's going to say next? The devil. This is the devil fighting against me. This is the devil. Okay? And then eventually, God's going to bring him to the point where he's going to be like, it's not this or that. It's not the devil. It's the fact that I have sinned. It's the fact that I've been doing these things. And now, here's what happened next. Because of this, because of what? Because of the current situation, our heart is faint. Because of these things, our eyes grow dim. I'm going to say it again. Because of this, our heart is faint. You talk to him when he's in that situation. He doesn't see a resolve in this. He doesn't see anything coming back to life. He sees everything as being dim, completely gone. In the trenches, there's no more light. There's no more joy. There's no coming around. There was no turning back. And you know what? God will allow it for a while for him to understand a lesson, or to be taught a lesson, and never sin again the way he did. Because of Mount Zion, which is desolate, with foxes walking about on it. Here's one thing that I want you to understand. When these people in the Old Testament sinned, everything went astray. Absolutely everything. And you know what the last thing happened? You know what the last thing that happened was? The temple was desolate as well. The place of gathering where they were gathering, okay, to bring sacrifices and to speak to the Lord and to hear to the Lord speak to them, was now empty. Foxes were walking through there. It didn't serve its purpose anymore. Question that I have for you right now, and I want you to pay attention to what I'm telling you. And this might be prophecy that I'm telling you right now, and I think it is. Imagine all these people that you have dealt with and we have dealt with in big churches right now. But those big churches are being made by these people. They're being filled with these people that keep sinning against the Lord. When God will allow these times to come over them, and when they will be punished, the churches are going to be empty because there's no more money to support them. There's no more money to give. There's no more, do you understand what I'm trying to say? People cannot support that ministry anymore. And those churches are going to be empty. It's just going to be like a tomb. Oh, you know what? Yeah, used to be a church. Right now, spiders, spider webs, mice. Because we didn't pay attention when we had it all. We did not put our emphasis on God. We did not put our emphasis on God. And here's what's guaranteed. And these are the last 4 verses. Here's how he ends. I want you to understand something. That in the end, every knee will bow, the Bible says. Every knee shall bow. It says this: You, O Lord, remain forever. Your throne from generation to generation. Do you know that in the end they will acknowledge God? It might be too late, but they will acknowledge God. And you know why? Because God always did that. God always did that. In the end, every knee will bow. They will come and say, yes, we have sinned. We've done all of this. Lord, there's you. You know, I know this. You live forever, Lord. Go in the book of Jonah. Tell me how tough was he? Tell me how tough was he when everything was good for him? He was sleeping at the bottom of the boat. Everything was perfect. He paid for the trip. He was enjoying himself. Oh, the Lord cannot touch me. Everything is fine. I got money. I'm on a boat. The boat sails fine. All of a sudden, something happens. The Lord sends the winds. The winds bring, the waves. The waves attack the boat. The boat is ready to sink. He's being thrown in the water. And a fish comes and swallows him. You know what's next? He's in the belly of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights. And he starts praying, oh, Lord. Have you read this? I'm at the bottom of the earth. Everything is on top of my... By the way, I want to ask you a question. How do you think it smelled in there? Who can tell me? Huh? All sorts of rotten fish and all sorts of acids in there, God protected him not to, be affected. But I don't think it was very pleasant for him. I don't think it was pleasant for him. What does he do ultimately? He goes before the Lord. He goes before the Lord and he acknowledges the Lord, right? And after he acknowledges the Lord, what happens next? The Lord commands the fish to spit him out. By the way, question for you. Would you like to be spit out of an animal's mouth? Would you like to be spit out of God's mouth? The Bible talks about that too. Would you like that? But you know what? This is what happens to the people that do not listen. And in the end, God brings the ultimate, punishment. And here's what he says. Why do you forget us forever? Do you guys remember what he started with? Remember, O Lord, what has come upon us. Do you see how he finishes? Why do you forget us forever? Now, does God forget forever? The Bible says that he does not punish, forever. God does not find pleasure in this and forsake us for so long a time. Here's what I'm going to tell you. God will pursue these punishments for a long time. You know why? Because he wants you and I and everybody else to be taught a lesson. And then it says, turn us back to you, O Lord, and we will be restored. Renew our days as of old, unless you have utterly rejected us and are very angry with us. Question, was God angry with them? See how we go before the Lord? Listen to me, it's almost pitiful. We go before the Lord with such words. Lord, it seems like you have forgotten me. Lord, if you... Pay attention to this. I'm going to end. The same guy that I told you about with the house that gypped the contractor eventually ended up being thrown out. Eventually lost everything. Eventually lost even his car. My father-in-law had a discussion with him. And he addressed him before all of this happened. Like when he was doing well. When he was doing very well. His household was rich. His money was there. His wife was, not sick. His kids, by the way, he lost the kids to drugs after that. My father-in-law addressed him and said, how can you allow the kids to watch such horrific things on TV? They were watching horror movies and they would do, and he addressed my father-in-law. I was like, you guys are pitiful. You don't have an open mind. This is not affecting us just because we're watching. It's not affecting us. What are you talking about? And my father-in-law tried to tell him something, and he said, if you continue like this, you're going to end up in hell. I mean, he was straight up. You know my father-in-law, right? He doesn't mince no words, right? He just says it like it is. And he told him straight up, he's like, you're going to end up in hell. Do you know what that guy said? He said, wow, Brother Tino, if I get in front of God and God will say, you go to the pit of fire, I will say, Lord, I hear you. Here I am, I'm going. Your faithful servant is going. I looked at it like, these people are insane. I'm sorry that I have to use this word. These people are insane. So you're listening then, but you're not listening now. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Do you not see this over here? Renew our days as of old, unless you have utterly rejected us and are very angry with us. Are you serious? Are you serious? Of course God is angry with you. Of course God is fed up with what you're doing because he's been talking to you for such a long time. You had an entire book of Jeremiah in which God kept speaking to you and you rejected every single one of those words that came from the Lord. Anybody know how many chapters Jeremiah has? It's one of the longest books of the prophets, 52 chapters. For 52 chapters, God kept speaking to them and speaking to them and speaking to them, and they didn't listen. You know that the book of Lamentations has only 5 chapters? And you know it has to do with God's punishment? So God here's what I'm trying to prove to you, and we're going to end. So God took 52 chapters to keep telling them, hey, just through Jeremiah, hey, turn to me. Turn from your wicked ways. Turn to me. Don't do this anymore. Don't. And then he takes 5 chapters in which he punishes them. And they're on the ground. Destroyed, terminally ill. Oh, how much longer? Are you serious? So I want to put it this way for you guys to understand. So for 52 chapters, it was not a lot, that you have sinned for 52 chapters. But now in 5 chapters of punishment, you're done. You can no longer be revived. You see how we are? Someone was saying that men are very weak when they come to being sick. Have you seen a man when he's seems like the whole world is collapsing around him, right? He's about to die. He's got this really bad cold. He's got, some stings in his throat, and he's about to die. Honey, if nothing happens in the next 2 days, I think I'm gonna die. Something really bad is going to happen. That's the same attitude that sometimes Christians have when God's wrath comes over them. Okay, they think that everything is lost, everything is destroyed. Now, listen to me. Let's pay attention to something. Let's pay attention to, this is why God had me speak to you tonight. To speak to Him, to speak to everybody, but to everybody, you know what everybody needs to understand? Why don't we fix the situation when God speaks to us first? And we never have to get 5 chapters of Lamentations. Then we just come before Him. You know how easy it is? You know how easy it is? Let me tell you how easy it is. You fell into some sort of a sin, you did something wrong, but you acknowledged it immediately. And you go in before the Lord and you said, Lord, I have sinned against you. Here I am. I acknowledge my mistake. Please forgive me. And then you go before the people and say, people, I just wanted you to know, I have sinned. I have confessed it to the Lord. But the Bible says that I need to confess to you as well. Listen to me. God forgives like this. God forgives like this. Instead, you know what we do? We hide this one. And then we hide the next one with a lie. And the next one with 2 lies. And the next one with 3. And by the time we know it, we're at 500. And the stuff keeps piling up. And God keeps counting down and counting down and counting down. By the way, everything is written. Everything is written. And the Bible says that when the cup gets full, God says, you know what? My angels, go. And then God's wrath comes. And when God's wrath comes, we think we're going to die. Sometimes it might happen. But it's preventative. We can prevent it. We can be the ones turning God from the wrath by turning back to Him. We need to turn back to God. We need to do His will. We need to acknowledge that we have sinned and that He has been giving us opportunity after opportunity. I'm going to end. I keep saying I'm going to end, but I'm going to end. Listen to me, guys. David, I want you to think about what I'm telling you right now. This is a time, listen to me, this is a time of mourning for you. Not when he's going through what he's going to be going through. This is a time of mourning. This is a time when you have to come before the Lord and you have to mourn before the Lord and say, Lord, don't ever allow me to fall this bad. You think that this is just, do you think that God is using this opportunity just to speak to him? God is speaking to you as well. God is showing his wickedness to you so that you, when he's going to bless you, will never fall into that.
Yeah.
That's what God wants. There are lessons to be learned from every single thing that happens to other people. But you know what the biggest thing is? We think that, oh, just that person is being punished. I'm never going to end up there. And then we become prideful. We don't pay attention, and eventually it happens to us. We need to pay attention. We need to turn back to God. Here's my question that I have for you, and we're going to pray. How do you find out what's wrong? Okay, let's take it this way. Your car just stopped. Alex's car just stopped. Just a few days back, he calls me. He's like, my car just died in the middle of the parking lot. I'm at Les Schwab. It died. There's no more lights. There's no more this. I can't turn the wheel. This and that. So I would be home, right? And I would be like, okay, so what? Well, my car died. So what? Well, my car died. It needs to be fixed. Well, fix it. If you don't look into it, if you don't look into finding what the problem is, right? The car is going to sit there for ages until it rots, and you will never find the problem. It could be a very small thing that prevented that car from running, right? In this case, a battery. His battery became so weak that it could not be charged. It was shorted, could not be charged anymore, and the alternator could not keep up with the car's demand of power. That's all it needed. Okay? $100-something, you fix the situation, you're on the road again. But if he does, what if he says, no, I'm not going to look into it. He's without a car. Car gets destroyed eventually, right? And everybody loses. What am I trying to say? Let's do a checkup every single day. Let's see, are all the lights in the dash turning off? Don't put tape over them. Try to cover them. No. Let's see, are all the lights turning off? I'm talking about you guys' lives, okay? Make sure, do I still have the love? Do I still have the kindness? Have I lost it today? Have I done something that upset the Lord? Have I done something that upset, my family or my wife or my husband? Have I done... In other words, right? You're going through a process in which it's the check button, right? You check to make sure everything is okay. And if something is not okay, you address it that night before you go to bed. Lord, I need to get this done. Needs to be off of my chest. I cannot deal with it. I give it to you, Lord. I have sinned. I'm sorry. I apologize. Please forgive me. The Lord forgives right away. And you wake up in the morning, a new person, and you start going at it again. And you know what? If you've sinned that day again, you go back to the Lord. Now, if that sin keeps repeating 500 times, you've got a problem. I'm not trying. That's a different sermon. But I'm just telling you guys for you to understand. So, he needs to learn, you need to learn, I need to learn from people's mistakes. So that if we end up, right, if we end up in a predicament, we don't allow things to slide until God brings His wrath and the ultimate punishment over us. Because you know what? Then we're in the middle of it, and then we got to call, and people have to pray, and there's all sorts of things that need to be done. And here's what I'm going to end. There's no guarantee that God will bring us back. Do you guys understand? When you get to that point, there's no more guarantee that God will bring you back. It's at His mercy. He wants to, He can do it, but it's not guaranteed. Let's all stand up and go before the Lord in a prayer. And I invite you tonight to go before the Lord and say, Lord, here's what I'm dealing with. If you didn't forgive Him 100%, forgive Him tonight. If there's still something that irks you inside, forgive Him tonight. Put him in God's hands. God's going to deal with him. Okay, so let's all go before the Lord. And if there is something that there's that check engine light right there, that tells you, hey, this needs to be checked. Okay, let's check it before the Lord. And go, to our beds tonight and lay our heads in peace, knowing that no matter what, we are safe with God. You guys want to do that? Let's go into a prayer. Father God, we come